I want to tell you, my daughter got into West Virginia.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, good for her.
Oh, they normally say get out of West Virginia.
Don't start. Just don't start. It's hard. It's difficult to get into West Virginia. They don't let the elite in.
Well, you want to do something, she got into West Virginia. She got into UCM.
What's her major?
Okay, according to my watch, we're at 8:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know, and I think it is on.
I don't think so.
I don't know what's going on. You right here? There we go. Yep.
Speaking.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, there we go. All righty, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and first thing up is the finance report. So, Jonathan? Pardon me? Well, no, we've done that before. Well, we will. Jonathan Goodman, raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. We don't want you to get confused with any of us. This is our Director of Finance, Interim Director of Finance, so some of you will recognize the name. He was here several years ago, and now he's here to help us out until we hire our new CFO/Director of Finance. So, Jonathan.
All right, so for the month of January, sewer operations had revenue of $231,000, which was unfavorable to budget by $18,000, and this was mainly due to the sewer. Oh, sorry. I figured my voice was loud enough.
For posterity.
Oh, sorry. Which was unfavorable to budget by $18,000. That was mainly due to sewer taps. Unfortunately, we had, obviously you all experienced it. We had a little bit inclement weather in the month of January, so that prevented some of that work being done. However, that was offset by expenses being favorable to budget by $18.8K. So it was a net surplus really of $45. So really came out and a surplus of $451. So cash operating is $1.4 million. Capital is $2.6 million in the sewer. For the POA and amenities, revenue was $1.09 million, which was unfavorable with the budget by about $29K. Cost of sales were unfavorable by about $4K. Expenses, however, were favorable by $77,000. A net subsidy was favorable by $44,000. Our current cash position in the capital account is $4.5 million. In the operating account, it's $2.4, and in the reserve account, it's $5.8. That's, if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them at this time.
Are there any questions?
I got a question on the balance sheet, Jonathan.
Yes.
There's an item called Marina Holdings that is now void of cash, and last month it had $9,214 in it. Where'd that money go?
I have to pull up the trial balance, but that was a, if you give me a second just to pull that up.
Well, the reason I raise it is that we put that money in that reserve in 2021. And so if we're going to move it, the board needs to vote to move that money out of that reserve.
All right, I'm just checking with the. You just have to give me a minute to get that for you. No, I'm not getting it. This is what keeps showing up. Bob? Keep on getting this.
Okay. Are you trying to, what are you trying to get to?
To North Star.
Oh, okay. I think the yellow umbrella is probably not correct. I think it's going to be perimeter style.
Is Russ still on vacation?
Let me see.
Sorry for that.
That's okay.
Why don't we just continue? If anybody has.
All right, we'll go ahead and
Well,
go with the
I
agenda,
got-
and we'll come back.
I got another question.
All right.
Sorry. but he's gonna need to see his computer because it's on page 25. But I'll just explain it. In golf, it says total amenity revenue, and there's a comment, amenity reserve contribution was budgeted for high, actual was something else. I think you really mean amenity fees were budgeted, not amenity reserve.
The amenity,
It's on the income statement variance detail, Jonathan,
right,
under golf.
sorry, it's on my computer. I just have.
That's right, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll get that to you in 2 seconds.
Well, we'll get back to it.
Okay.
We'll come back after we have Bruce. Tom, you have a question?
Tom Radcliffe, can you hear me?
Turn that on.
Is that now? Yes. Okay. My question has to do with your comments in the report, property owner associations. You mentioned that part of the reason that we have the surplus in budget had to do with the 42K in payroll due to ongoing vacancies. You probably don't have the answer here, but I'd appreciate if we could get it for tomorrow, and that would be, so how many open positions do we have? And roughly, an average of how long they've been open? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bruce Evans.
Good morning. Not much to report on the odor control at Catherine being moved over to London Court. The vendor who has the authority to move that hydrogen peroxide is still recovering from shoulder surgery, so he will let me know when they're ready to pull the trigger and get it moved over there, and we'll fire it up. I have not heard from Sue. Not quite sure what's going on with the odors on Meadowview, but I'm assuming that it's gotten a little bit better anyway, so. We are doing a small extension right now over Malvern, in front of Lake Kirkstone from Malvern to High School Court. And it's a 1,200-foot extension being paid for by the contractor who's building 2 homes on High School Court. So waiting on the design of the Tawny Oak St. George sewer extension and approval from TDEC. So that's all I have right now.
Okay. Jonathan, are we ready to come back to you, or?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
Just trying
all
to
right.
figure out why. I can't
That's
get
fine.
it on.
Any questions for Bruce? Go on ahead. Come on up, because people that are streaming need to hear who you are. Up to the microphone, please.
Sit there.
Oh, you can sit right there, yeah. You can sit right there at the table if you like. And please state your name and,
I'm Jim Jeffers. I live on Tawny Oak Wood.
You have to speak into it directly.
I'm Jim Jeffers, and I live on Tawny Oak. And our questions, we've sent out to the board a list of questions that we have. Most of the people sitting right over here are homeowners on Tawny Oak Loop, and we are pretty much against this. We're trying to figure out, how did this come about? Why was it picked up? When we just got a notice that we've got a bill in excess of $2,000 in most cases for bringing this sewer in that we don't necessarily want. Karen?
Yeah, my name is Karen Brown. I am also a resident of Tawny Oak Loop. And we were hoping to get all the questions on, Bruce, I think you have this, and probably, I don't know if you sent it out to try and get answers so that, you know, I think the whole thing is, part of it is that we weren't even informed of this until this letter of February 5th. So you get a bill in the mail for quite a large sum of money for something we didn't know was coming. I just, you know, I think we all felt just blindsided by this not being in, you know, any opinions asked for at the onset of this, or even been informed about this. There's only 11 of us that actually live on that street right now. It would have been simple to send a letter. It just, all this angst could have been better handled had we had backup information, how these were calculated, what our true responsibilities for. Do any of us intend on hooking up? In my case, my home's 3 years old. I had to buy a brand-new lot across the road, have it cleared for septic, pay for a high-end septic system, and obviously we're maintaining it. That's a big expense for us just at the onset, nearly, only 3 years ago. So that's for me. But there are many homeowners that have septic across the road because they bought those lots. So therefore, that another question on my list is those leach lines run under the road. Okay, these are just things that are, we're all want to know and want to be informed. And number 3, honesty, integrity, and transparency. This comes back to the transparency issue. We just, at a time when everyday living expenses are through the roof, to get thrown with a bill like this, where we don't even have any backup information, how it was calculated. I know it's linear feet, I get that, but that should have come with the bill to know how and who all is supposed to pay for this. Because I have looked through all the board documents and the covenants and whatnot, and I found so many conflicting things. Some of them say that if this is requested by somebody on the street, 75% of the owners, including declarant owners, have to agree in writing to this. We weren't even asked. I found some other things on a resolution from April of 23 that were only strongly urged to connect, not mandatory. All of that could have been put in this onset letter, and we probably all wouldn't be sitting here and have had to be very worried about this at the onset. And there's another sewer policy dated 2/4/22 that say sewer extensions are paid from the general fund. So what is it? I mean, I'm not saying which one of these are right or wrong. I'm saying we just are not informed, obviously. So, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to get these questions answered. This may not be the platform, and as we stated, we would be very happy to meet one-on-one with you, but I don't think any of us really have an intention on connecting to the sewer system at this time. So to go through all of this, it just seems like capital expenditures could be better spent somewhere else.
Okay, I'm going to address part of this now.
Sure.
We actually have gotten your questions, and we're going to, I asked Jim, is Jim here?
He's right here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I asked that we do this at the end of this meeting.
Okay.
For those that are not interested in that conversation, they can leave. But we're going to answer all of your questions.
Okay.
And I'll just start out by, we messed up on the notifications. Typically, we do those before we even bring it up here. But we had a change between our director of finance at the time, and it got dropped in the middle of that. But we're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to answer all of your questions. But I'd prefer to go through the meetings.
That's fine.
For those people that want to go afterwards. They can then leave, but we'll stay until all your questions are answered.
Okay, well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate the time, and again, that would have just settled all this angst if this would have been done at the onset.
I understand, so
And,
we will get back to you, so it's just going to be a few minutes, and we'll have the conversation, okay?
Well, we appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Jonathan, are you ready? Well, then we're not going to go to you. All right. Community maintenance, Sam, oh, I'm sorry, was there any more on Bruce?
No, I'm,
Okay, Sam? What? Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce, come on back up, we have the SMT presentation. That's right.
good morning. So I've been asked to do a presentation on the sewer system, Fairfield Glade Sewer System and Wastewater Treatment Plant for the board this morning, and I have a slideshow if I can get it pulled up, but just a quick background. I came down from New England in 2011 to take the job, and have been doing the job ever since, and I'll give you a rundown on the treatment plant and the collection system, what we've done in the last 13 years, and what we plan on doing in the next 10 years. So That being said, we'll go to the first slide, which is the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant is located at the end of Westchester Drive on Chestnut Hill Road, 350 acres inside the fence. It's a biological natural treatment plant that uses lagoons for sewage treatment. It's considered what's called a slow rate land treatment facility, so that we do not have a direct discharge to any water source. So we don't fall under the oversight of EPA, we fall under the oversight of just the local regulatory agency, TDEC. TDEC issues a permit on a 5-year plan. We follow that permit, and then we spray and drip irrigate. All the water that comes in and is treated, we spray and drip irrigate. It perks through the soil, and the soil does the tertiary treatment to secondary standards. It makes it through the soil, hits rock, moves laterally to a ditch, and then off property. And so, because we don't have oversight of EPA, we don't fall under a NIPDES permit, it's a little bit different regulations down there. And once again, it's a large footprint. So it's about 100 acres that we spray and drip for effluent disposal. We've got more drip planned, as you'll see as I go through the slides. One of the major capital projects that's planned coming up is an additional effluent drip disposal system. So biosolids at the plant, every plant develops biosolids. The biosolids, we secured a biosolids land application permit 5 years ago, and we have property that outside the fence that Fairfield owns down there that has been permitted for biosolids land application. The collection system in Fairfield is quite complex. It's kind of unique in that most of the collection system is what's called low pressure sewer system, fed by grinder pumps, individual grinder pumps located at most of the homes. There is a small section of gravity sewer on the older side of Fairfield, along Meadowview Drive, Lakeshire, Jasper, Lake St. George. That area has some gravity sewers that were put in back in the early 70s, but primarily moving forward, most of the homes are serviced by a grinder pump. So the grinder pump is owned by the homeowner, but operated and maintained by the sewer department. Right now, we currently have 5,100 plus grinder pumps that we maintain and operate. They pump through small diameter pipes. So we do everything from the installation of those grinder pumps on a new lot that's being developed, to tying it into the sewer, to maintaining it. They pump through small diameter pipes to 16 major pump stations that are located throughout Fairfield. Those 16 major pump stations then pump everything down to the treatment plant where it's treated, and then we use the drip and spray effluent disposal to get rid of the water. All of the pump stations are monitored through a SCADA system, a web-based SCADA system that has alarm notifications. So this web-based SCADA system monitors the operation of each pump station, and any condition outside of normal conditions, my pump station operator gets a phone call and responds accordingly. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. So we run the pump stations via that. We maintain the pump stations. This is the flow pattern from the pump station. So here in Fairfield, our farthest pump station from the treatment plant is Wilburn. Wilburn pumps into Heatherhurst. Heatherhurst pumps into Wexford. Wexford pumps into Oak Knoll. And then Oak Knoll pumps all the way down to Rebel Run before Rebel Run pumps it to the treatment plant. A couple years ago, we completed a major capital project to separate Fairfield into two subzones. So we have north of Peavine and south of Peavine, and each of those subsections have a number of different pump stations all interconnected. We've changed some flow patterns to try and increase capacity throughout the system, and we did a 10-year master plan prepared by McGill a few years ago, and we have some major capital projects planned for the collection system that's going to continue to increase the capacity of the collection system without expending too much money. So Here's the major capital projects that are planned or that have been completed. So the pump stations, TDEC has a policy that says any pump station that does not average over 1 million gallons per day does not require a standby generator. DEC power in Fairfield can be inconsistent at times, and anytime a pump station that's pumping 900 gallons a minute loses power for even 15 minutes, you have the potential for an overflow in that pump station. And so over the last 13 years, we were able to purchase and install in-house standalone diesel pumps, diesel-operated pumps. And so the diesel-operated pumps act as a backup if we lose power, if we have high flows, if we have mechanical issues. Back in 2011, anytime we got a rain event over 1 inch, we would have multiple overflows at the pump station. Any particular location that has overflows more than 3 times in an annual average 12-month period, TDEC has the authority to put a moratorium on the building. So my goal when I came in 2011 was to minimize those overflows. And so by installing these diesel pumps, we have reduced the overflows to 1 or 2 a year now, and that's basically an uncontrollable event such as a force main rupture. But the pump stations now convey all of the sewage with the diesel pumps down to the treatment plant, where in the past we get these heavy rain events or whatever, we would have overflows, multiple overflows. So we installed the diesel pumps at 8 of our critical pump stations. We installed a 250,000 gallon per day drip irrigation system at the treatment plant that's also SCADA operated. We installed a 3.3 mile, 12-inch secondary force main that separated Fairfield into north and south at the Peavine line. And we installed a 1.5 mile, 8-inch force main just recently last year from our Lake Catherine pump station to Westchester that now gravities to the plant. It used to pump to our main pump station behind Lake St. George, where we had to pump it a second time. We ran a new force main, and now it's only pumped 1 time. So it's increased the capacity at Lake St. George and reduced our electrical costs significantly. Every day I get 1 day closer to retirement, so we needed to come up with a succession plan, and I've been working with Amber Black to do that. And so we've created 1 more position for the staff down at the treatment plant. Right now we run with 16 and a half folks, so 16 and a half including myself. The 1 position that we're creating is manager. My assistant manager, Keith Gardner, has indicated that he is not ready to take my seat in the event that I retire or when I retire. And so we've created a new position, a manager just above Keith, just below me, who will be trained for the duration that I'm here, and hopefully slide into my seat when I move, when I finally get to retire. So that's the succession plan. Have the manager be trained while I'm still here, and then slide into my seat when I leave. So here are the 10-year master plan that McGill prepared and completed in 2021 identified 5 major capital projects that needed to be completed in order to continue having enough capacity within the collection system as it stands now. So the Oak Knoll pump station, Oak Knoll force main coming out of the Oak Knoll pump station is scheduled for 2024, and that's going to take the flow from our Oak Knoll pump station that currently goes to Rebel Run and direct it right to the plant under Peavine Road and right down Westchester to the plant. That will provide a tremendous amount of capacity at our Rebel Run pump station. And then the following year, in 2025, we're going to build a new pump station at the bottom of Rotherham. Right now, we have an 8-inch force main all the way around Lake Dartmoor, on both sides of Lake Dartmoor, that goes all the way up to Wilburn. Once again, Wilburn pump station pumps to Heatherhurst, to Wexford, to Oak Knoll, to Rebel Run. So we're going to build a pump station at the bottom of Rotherham, and all of that flow will only be pumped through 2 pump stations rather than 4. So in '27, we're going to rehabilitate the line. We've got a gravity line that runs through under the water in Lake St. George, just on the Meadowview, just off the Meadowview Road. And that line is leaking badly. And so I've come up with a plan, working with McGill and myself, come up with a plan to rehabilitate that line. So it's, once again, it's underwater. It's not an easy job to do, but we've come up with a plan that should work without draining the lake. Draining the lake obviously would be the easiest way to rehabilitate a line under the lake, but in this case, we're not going to have to drain the lake. So in 27, we're also going to do an additional effluent drip disposal system. We've got the land, we've got the soil mapped just outside the treatment plant now. The additional effluent drip disposal will be another 250 to 500,000 gallon per day effluent disposal, which should give us enough capacity to dispose of all the effluent until 2034 minimum. And then we're going to make some upgrades to the treatment plant between the years 29 to 31. New headworks is needed. The H2S has deteriorated some of the concrete down there, and we're looking at building an additional storage lagoon for our final effluent. So right now we have one storage lagoon, 4.5 million gallon storage lagoon for final effluent that we use as a holding tank to draw our spray and drip out of, and we need to increase that. So that's basically the proposed, or the projects that we plan on completing over the next 10 years. And that's basically what we're doing moving forward. Obviously, grinder pump service is a big one. Like I said, we have 5,100 grinder pumps. In the next 10 years, we're probably going to be adding another 1,200 grinder pumps based on the current rate of growth. So the bulk of our work down there is certainly centered around grinder pumps and the low pressure system. So, any questions?
Nico Sergio. I've been a community club member since April of 2005. I'm kind of curious, how many septic systems do we have in Fairfield Glade?
Around 400.
The other issue, does the community club have any policy that relates to when so many people on a street or in an area are on septic systems that we come in and add sewer? I guess I'm specifically talking about Wilshire Heights. I understand that a lot of these homes in there are 30 to 50 years old. They're still on septic, and I'm wondering if there's any, like, community club policy or state policies or county policies about water contamination or failure of septic systems. Does the community club get involved with that type of situation?
They do not. That's regulated at the state level, Nico. Mm-hmm. So we don't have a policy. We don't monitor septic systems at all. They're private sewage systems, mm-hmm. And so Fairfield Sewer Department has no say one way or the other. Mm-hmm. There's areas, well, a few years back I was instructed to concentrate on areas around the lakes because it had been brought to the attention of the general manager and the board, I think at the time, by the chairman of the Lakes Committee, that there were potentially some failing septic systems that were located along the lake. Maybe they're not maintained properly or they're just failing. And so that's when we go out and look at potential sewer extensions, I've been focusing on areas around the lakes because that's what I was instructed to do, regardless of how many septic systems there are or not. But they would prefer, at least 5 years ago, I was instructed to concentrate on sewering around the lakes. Mm-hmm. So, go ahead.
About a month, 2 months ago or something, there was a comment about Reds hooking up to the sewer, but that's not my question. Part of the comments that were added on later on, someone stated that like 10 years ago, the residents in Wilshire Heights got an agreement with the community club that we would not install sewer lines in Wilshire Heights without their permission. Are you aware of such a policy? Would that be a policy that is existing? I'm just trying, I hear.
I'm unaware of it. I'm unaware of it. So I know that there are certainly systems that are questionable as far as the operation in Wilshire. But once again, that's at the state level. So Brian Houston is stationed here in Crossville. He takes care of the SASs and the PSSs, private septic systems. So we're hands off. We take care of the sewer system, Fairfield Glade sewer system, and we don't concentrate on septic systems. So.
Okay. Greg, are you aware of any such agreement?
No, I'm not. I
Okay.
mean, and I've been through the CNRs and the bylaws a few times since December, and there's nothing that I know of any policy about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Anybody
more?
else, questions? For those of you that haven't been down to the waste treatment plant and that type of thing, I'm going to be on the marketing side here for a minute. Some of you may be aware of a deal called Conrad Tours, and they regularly do tours down there. And if you haven't seen the operation, it's well worth your while to go down there. We're pretty unique as a community to have a sewer system that we run. And they do a great job down there. And if you see that tour coming up, it's well worth your time to go down there and actually see it. I know long before I got on the board, I'd just been there here maybe a year. I took that tour, and I sat down with Bruce afterwards, and it was pretty enlightening. So those of you that maybe haven't done that, it's well worth your time to do that. It's a unique thing, and most communities are like us do not have that, but it's a sewer department. But it's well worth your time and trouble to do that. You'll get a pretty good idea of just how complex what goes on down there is. I think, Bruce, you told me when I was there, he said something like, our sewer system here is more complex than the city of New York.
It's a complex system.
Yeah, so.
In order to handle the topography.
So if you haven't been down there, it's well worth your time to see if they're conducting that tour, to take it. So I encourage you to do that, okay? Thank you.
Greg, I have the answers.
Oh,
Everything's
we're back to Jonathan.
Everything's up and running.
All right, we're going to go back to the financial piece.
I apologize for that, not having it up, but the marina offset cash was used, we spent $166,793 on the renovations at St.
I know where it went. What I'm asking is the balance that was there at the end of December is not there now at the end of
Yeah,
January.
because it went to pay these renovations.
No, it did not.
According to what I have, it did.
Okay, I'll sit down and go through that.
Yeah, we'll look at it after that. And as far as the comment on the amenity reserve, when the amenity reserve was budgeted, now that's an offset against revenue, so we take away revenue, goes into the reserve. When
Okay.
that was budgeted, it was budgeted evenly over a 12-month period.
Right.
However, as what the deduction is 2% of revenue in that particular month.
Right.
So obviously, if we're only taking 2% and it's budgeted at a higher amount, that creates a greater revenue
Okay.
than it does.
And so you're taking those amenity fees and putting in an amenity reserve?
Goes into the amenity reserve.
Okay, thanks. I'll get with you on that.
Any other questions for Jonathan? Okay, Sam, you're up next.
I have the architectural control report for the month of January. Miscellaneous approvals through the month of January to established homes was 67, and through January 2023 was 93. New homes approved through January of 2024 was 0, and through January 2023 was 11. Now, a lot of people, I just want to address this. We canceled an ACC meeting in January because of the snow. So it'll be made up in February. New homes completed, including manufactured homes, through January was 4, and through the same time in 2023 was 11. Is there any questions for me? Thank you.
All right. We're going to go into the capital projects here. So Sam, you're not going to sit down yet. Sam? Good try.
I'm submitting to the Board of Directors a CAR, capital acquisition request for $145,000. And it's a not to exceed $145,000. And this $145,000 is to replace a backhoe for my Roads and Bridges Department. We're currently getting bids for the purchase, and we're also getting an estimate on the trade-in value of the current backhoe that we have. The current backhoe that we have has 9,000 hours and is about 12 years old. But if you know anything about construction, it's not so much the age as it is the hours. And so we're looking at bids, and there's money in the budget for $145,000. I'd like to get that money released so that when the backhoe, the bids come in, and we are able to purchase it, that I don't have to, the money's already available. Is there any questions on that?
Come
yes.
on up. Nico, we're going to have you come up here.
Now, tomorrow, when this is presented, it'll be Bruce Evans presenting it, because I'll be out of town. So he,
Could you explain what a track front-wheel drive means? Is that, how can you have both?
yeah,
I
it's a wide track, four-wheel drive.
Wide track.
Wide track.
And this is a front-wheel drive, does that make sense?
No, not front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive.
Okay, so this is misprint.
The one
It
I
says
had,
FWD.
the one I have says WIDE, wide track, four-wheel drive.
Oh, that's not what this one says. I got this off of what Pat Davis sent out.
Good.
Okay. It's a backhoe, it's a four-wheel drive backhoe. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Bob Uri. You got a couple of them.
Good morning. I have a capital request for $67,824 for the replacement of computer equipment and point of sales and laptops that are 5 years and older. And I also have a second car for $6,095.79 to replace the streaming, actually upgrade the streaming equipment that we use for the workshops and for the board meetings.
I have a couple of questions on the IT equipment. They're blank, so I'm assuming we've not spent any money to date on IT equipment.
We have not.
And then the contingency line says TrackMan, PC, and tax. I don't understand what that means.
So what we did was we put the TrackMan upgrade for the center in contingency, and that will depend on what happens at the performance center.
Okay, all right,
That actually is a gaming PC, so it's pretty expensive.
okay.
And that actually the contingency also has the tax for all the equipment.
So this includes the gaming system that we talk about for Druid?
No, it actually is the upgrade for the TrackMan here at the center. And the questions that we have is that, is the TrackMan moving over to the new performance center, or are we purchasing two?
So this year, we're going to upgrade this TrackMan as
That's
it
correct.
sits?
That's correct.
All right. On the second CAR, there's no budget for that, right?
There's not. Russ asked me to look at upgrading the streaming equipment so that we could actually do picture-in-picture so that the folks from home can actually see the PowerPoints as it's being streamed. Also, it upgrades the camera quality so that I never got an applause like that as part of
They
a.
like it.
I guess they like it.
It upgrades the camera equipment also so that we can actually do some zooming in when speakers are talking at the podium, and it gives us 2 cameras.
No, I like the system. You've talked to me about it. I think it's the right thing to do. Jonathan, what I'd like for us to do is, we did this last year, as we approve CARs, and I'll use the golf performance center as an example. We had $1 million in the budget for that. We approved a CAR last month for $950,000. Okay, I'd like to see a spreadsheet that says, okay, that $50,000 sits over here as available for other type of activities, but I'd like to be able to track that as we go through the year, because my hunch is we're only in February, and I suspect there'll be some other unfunded capital requests that come up, and I'd like to be able to track that balance to make sure that we're staying within the capital budget that we approved. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any questions? Any more questions?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Bob. Bruce, Oak Knoll Force Main redirect.
So I'm presenting a CAR for engineering, re-engineering. Back in 2017, Barry Fields Engineering did a design, permitting, advertising, and bidding for the Oak Knoll Force Main Redirect project. It came in over budget, and so it was deferred until now. He's requoted. TDEC is, because the plans have expired, TDEC wants him to redo the plans to bring them up to 24 specs, and then advertise and bid, and he's given me a proposal of $13,450. So the budget is $400,000, and this is to Fields Engineering.
Any questions for Bruce? Okay. Dave Miser, Police Department.
So I have a CAR this morning for the police department. The amount is $92,900. And what this is about is securing the building, providing protection for the receptionist, and upgrading the back sidewalk to be ADA compliant. Questions?
Any questions? This is unfortunately one of those things that we have to do because of the world we live in today.
That's right.
And we don't have bulletproof glass and that kind of thing down there, and it's time that we start taking a look at that. So that's what this one's all about. Any questions? Okay. Okay, Stonehenge Grill, Bruce.
Actually, Dustin, are you here? Dustin is not here, okay. I was going to ask Dustin, the executive chef, to present this for Bobby Jones Links, but I'll just go over it. He can present it tomorrow for approval. This is to replace the outdoor furniture that sits on the deck and underneath the covered area of Stonehenge. And the reason we're doing this is that the current furniture does not make itself flexible for seating. And so this furniture will all be able to be separated or brought together, et cetera, for additional seating. And in addition, if you noticed, if you're over there, the umbrellas that are there are a bit ratty, and we're going to buy really nice umbrellas with Stonehenge on them. We're going to kind of upgrade that look. So this is for the budget was $27,785, and the request is $27,785 because we had gotten a quote, so we know precisely what the cost is going to be. So it's just to upgrade all that furniture so we can be more flexible, and it'll add seating to the deck area.
Is it Trex material or what?
Yeah, it's Trek material.
What
Just
color?
it's like the ones that are underneath the cover now, Barb.
Okay.
It's the same material.
Okay. Same color or?
It's same color. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to major capital projects. So Bruce, you're on a roll.
Okay. let's see what we want to talk about.
Druid, and then bocce courts?
Yeah. Druid project, is Jeff here? If you want to talk about the putting course and driving range, since you've got up-to-the-minute information?
We hope.
Oh, I know Jeff, he does, trust me.
Yeah.
We had, I saw 2 truckloads of sod show up today, so they'll start sodding on the driving range project. So the plan was to have 3 trucks today, 3 trucks tomorrow, 3 trucks Friday. So we'll see, I'll give another update tomorrow to you guys, what we get laid down, what we'll have come in the next 2 days. So we're about to see a dramatic change up there. What we got today was Bermuda grass. It's dormant, so it will have to come out. So it won't look great, but it is a great start to the project. Should come out in April. It's usually what it does. So that's where we're at there.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. You're welcome. On the Golf Performance Center, last month we approved the PR. The work will begin March 4th, and the contract states that they will finish 220 days, so that should be done and open in October. And I ran into Adam yesterday, and he is so excited he can't stand himself. So that project, if you go up there, you'll see where it's staked out as to where the Performance Center is going. And as far as the clubhouse design is concerned, the 3 committees, F&B committee, the golf committee, and the steering committee for Druid project continues to work with our architect, Vic Jones, out of Dallas. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon to do some additional discussion on the site work and parking lot, golf cart staging and all that. So we're still working on that. We're shooting for a town hall meeting the end of March, first week in April at the latest, to present the plans for the Druid Clubhouse and site work to the community. Bocce courts, that project was approved. That work will start shortly. David, that's going to finish in August, I think we said, right? So that should finish in August. And for all these projects, I would ask you, I worked with the IT department, John Blankenship, and we updated the homepage of the member website. And if you drop down to the bottom of that, you'll see an area called Major Projects. Take a look in there, because Dave Miser and Jeff will be updating pictures as these projects progress. And hopefully we'll do that every week or so that folks can see the progress we're making on all those. We'll do the same thing with the bocce courts as well. The project that's not on here, I want to mention St. George. St. George is wrapping up. It looks really good. If you've ever been into St. George and haven't been back, you're going to be amazed when you walk into St. George when we're done. And we're shooting for opening March 1st or March 4th at St. George. So that project's coming along really well.
Okay, any questions? All right, Ken?
We had, in January, the board approved AEI as the architectural firm to complete the architectural design and engineering work for the emergency services complex. We have met with AEI, and that included a visit to the proposed site and a review of the preliminary draft floor plan as well as the requirements. The proposed site has been surveyed, and we expect the survey report, including a topographical survey report, in early March. In the meantime, AEI will develop some options for the orientation of the new emergency services complex on the proposed site. And then once the orientation has been determined, we will conduct the soil borings that we do every time we decide to construct a new facility, and that will determine the feasibility of the construction on the proposed site. The detailed architectural and engineering drawings are expected to take between 90 and 120 days to complete.
Any questions? Okay. I'm going to go a little off script here because I know we have a lengthy discussion to go on the sewer extension. So we'll take care of the other business. So those are people that want to leave, they can leave. So we'll drop down. Are there any other member comments other than the extension of the sewer? Tom?
Two things. The first one, a request, is it possible that the board can put together board member assignments and responsibilities? I've asked it before. If it's out there, I apologize. I can't find it on the website. But it would be nice to know who's responsible for what. So that's number one. Number two, I applaud the board in where it's going in terms of setting up goals for the various department heads. I think that's a great first step. I'd ask the board in the executive session to discuss what's your goals for this year, and to come back to us and share with us those goals. It gives us an idea of not only what you're working on, but at the end of the year, just like you'd be looking at accountability for the department heads, we can look for the accountability of the board at the same time. Thank you.
I'll react to a couple of those things. One is on the goals for the board. This was brought up actually as part of the strategic planning group. And we're going to be discussing this afternoon. We've gone through and tried to take all those action items, if you will, and we're going to talk about that. That's one of them. So we'll be talking about the timing and that type of thing for board goals. They're not going to be individual. They're not going to be individual board goals or board member goals, but they'll be a group goal for us. Okay? Anything else? Anybody else? All right. Then we're going to drop down. We'll come back, but we're going to drop down to board member comments. Anybody have any comments? I have a couple. All right. Just to update people so that you know where we are with a couple of things. Wildwood Stables will be acting this afternoon. We're going to name a committee of 9 people that are going to work on that. There were 25 people that applied. Sam McAdoo, Bruce Horn, and myself interviewed those people. And now we're going to be recommending that that committee gets formed to look at what the planning will be for Wildwood Stables going into next year. So it was, you know, again, when we tap into the experience of the membership, we find that time and time again that we have a lot of people that have done a lot of things in their careers or in their personal life. And it was amazing how many people have actually had the opportunity to actually run or build things like Wildwood Stables in our community. Not here, but in their prior lives. So we got a number of people that we're going to recommend, and we'll be having that done this afternoon, and we'll get that group started. On the general manager search update, Friday and Monday, we actually have 2 candidates coming in, our 2 finalists, if you will, for the general manager position. And the board and the SMTs will be talking to those people. And then we'll move on from there, hopefully, and we'll have one person we're actually going to start negotiating a contract with. So we're getting closer on that. And actually, I have to tell you, I never thought it would happen as quickly as it has, but it has. And that's a good thing. Russ Curtis, who is not with us today, he's in Antarctica, so he's counting penguins instead of dollars. But he's done a fantastic job, and there'll be some transition time between whoever we hire and him. So that's all in the works. All right. With that, anybody else have any comments, members or board members? Okay. Then we're going to get into the sewer extension, all right? And there's 2 ways to do this. We actually have gone through all of your questions, and we can tell you where we are with all of those first. And that might be the preferred way, so that if you have additional questions, we can answer them. And we'll take whatever time it takes to do that. So We're going to start off, we'll start off with answering those questions. So, Bruce?
So the first question was, why was Tawny Oak and Fox Den proposed for this sewer extension? To answer that question, both of them checked off all the boxes. So once again, when we look at extending sewer, we look at locations that already have hard surface roads, VEC power, Crab Orchard water. In this case, there's also lots along the lake, which was another box checked off, and the lots that are available on St. George and undeveloped lots on Tawny Oak are flat, favorable lots for development. So it checked off all the boxes. Who proposed the survey and the sewer? That would have been myself. Myself and my assistant manager were tasked with coming up with potential areas for sewer extensions. And once again, we were tasked, we were focused on areas with hard surface road, electric and power. I mean, water and power, just no sewer. Sewer was the only missing infrastructure or utility. What was presented to the board to get the survey, that was just a capital acquisition request. We discussed a sewer extension plan in detail with all of the areas that were outlined by myself and my assistant manager, and Tawny Oak met the bill. Who unilaterally decided that this project and expense was in the best interest of the homeowners? The project is not in the best interest of the homeowners necessarily, but it is in the best interest of the lot owners. As most of you know, it required 2 lots to build on Tawny Oak. Well, the number of lots available now for the privately owned lots to merge for a private septic system are limited. And so a lot of those lots now cannot be built on unless public sewer is available or the central sewer system is available. Yes, ma'am.
When you are looking at all of this.
Please come up here so people can hear you, okay?
When you are looking at this part, is anybody looking at how many of us actually own adjacent lots next door to us, because we've made those purchases, so a great number of us own the lots across the road from us. That is pretty much the whole heart of Tawny Oak Loop. There are a few separate lots. And is anybody looking at the density and the build out? I mean, it's just insane. It's a tiny road, a quiet road. Are we looking at the overall picture for what the welfare is of those that are there now? Because it seems like that is something that's not been taken into account here. We just want to build out every lot that there is. Wrong answer. I mean, that just isn't why most of us moved here. We moved here because it is quiet, preservation of the nature, the wildlife. So when you start building out all these without even looking at the size of the street, the amount of traffic on that little tiny road, to me, I just don't understand where number 3 comes in, or, you know, number 2, because it's not respecting the atmosphere, and without even consulting us or informing us at the onset of this, just seems like we have become insignificant. We, meaning those that live there, have spent a significant amount of money to purchase additional lots to preserve and have them merged with our homes, because we wanted to preserve the essence of what we all came to Fairfield Glade for. I understand you got to build out, you guys want revenue from properties and lots, and I understand there's homeowners or property owners there that would love to build those lots out, but there is a reason the street is the way it is, and that we love our community. You can see we're all represented here. This is not against anybody personally here, but we just all feel so slighted in this.
I'll take on part of that,
Thank you.
okay? We actually start planning where we're going to put sewer in. I'm getting a buzz. Oh, there we go. We actually start planning where we're going to put sewer in years ahead of the time that we actually do the sewer. We've been talking about this extension for at least 2 years that I know of, and probably before that. We do that because we have to plan the work for, sewer's a little bit unique because it's a separate fund, if you will. We don't mix it with POA stuff, okay? So when we do the planning for what we're going to do with sewer extensions, we look at where development can go. We talk to the developer and people that are building homes and seeing where they might want to go. And the checklist that Bruce told you is really the thing that we really look at. Now, we've changed some policies. We're going to get into that a little bit different, a little bit later. For those of you that have merged a septic lot with your lot, to make it less onerous on the member in terms of what we're going to do there. And we'll go through that in a second. But the fact is that these are planned out for a while. Now, as I said earlier, you know, we messed up a little bit because typically we send those letters out before we even do the first car for the study. But we didn't do that because we had a changeover between the Director of Finance and going back to actually Sam's area for the letters to go out. So we'll take responsibility for that piece. But it wasn't intentional. It was a slip up. And typically we do put those letters out before people even, before we even pass anything. But the things we look at, quite honestly, are the things for development because right, wrong, good or bad, the fact is we're in the business of selling lots and getting members. And that's one of the things that we really do look at, but they have to check the boxes too.
It's usually kept out of the public for as long as possible so that the contractors don't swoop in and buy the lots at a much reduced value. That's happened in the past, and so the letters are sent to the homeowners, usually well in advance of the car, but we don't make it public so that the contractors don't have an opportunity to sit there and make a significantly less dollar amount offer for lots that have been sitting there, can't be built on because sewer is not available.
Yeah, and that's a good point that Bruce brings up because typically we know from talking to realtors and builders that once we put a sewer in, the price of those lots typically go up.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. I mean, that's to your best interest, or to the lot owners. I get it. But most of us own the adjacent lots in our case.
I understand.
So,
but what we do is we try to get out in front of that with the homeowner so that they can understand if I don't want to be a part of all of this, before people start knocking on your door and saying, well, I'll give you X dollars for your lot, we want you to know that it's coming in so that you know that there's probably a value proposition that wasn't there before we made that decision to move the sewer in there.
but the value to us has nothing to do with dollars and cents.
I understand
It
that.
has to do with quality of life and where we live and why we chose to live
I
here.
understand that.
You know, I think we're all good stewards of our property, our street, our lake, and so all of these things are emotional things. They're personal, they're emotional. You guys honestly don't know any of us from any other neighbor. But if you would spend a day or two on that street, you'd know we're not neighbors, we're family. So this has hit to the heart of every single one of us because we were not informed. We're not given that opportunity. I know you can't back that up now, but it's almost the cart before the horse, and here we are today, upset.
I understand.
I mean, more than you can imagine.
No, I get that. We're going to go through some more questions here and make sure that we get the answers to that. And then we can have a conversation, because we're going to address some of those issues that you just brought up as we answer your questions that you gave us.
One of the things that he was proposing that they looked at was that it's a paved area.
Yes, sir.
1/3 of that
Well, a
area
hard
is not
surface.
paved.
A hard surface, and that's where the sewer extension is going
Well,
to stop.
1/3 of that area is not hard surface. It is gravel road, and then it's all to these grass roads. So it's just coming into it, and where we live is what the hard surface is. On up the hill is not. St. George, going up St. George, you'll come to Tawny Oak, and from there up is all gravel rather than hard surface. Hard surface to me is paved.
Chip and seal or paved, yes.
Yeah.
And that's where
And then-
that's where the proposed extension is.
And
It
there
turns
is-
right onto Tawny Oak off of St. George and goes to the gravel part of Tawny Oak.
So it's not going to go on up the hill?
No, sir, not at this point, not until that road is hard surfaced.
So we truly are the ones that are affected most. I mean, there's 11 homeowners with.
Well, there's
prime
66 lots that are affected.
property. Not on our street, not on Tanya Loop.
Well, there's 12 on St. George and then 50,
Okay, so.
some 50.
12 on St. George?
Yeah.
So keep those separate. I'm
I only know of one that's residence, and then there's some other area in there that doesn't appear to be 12, but it may be.
There's 12 affected lots on St. George that received letters. There's developer property on St. George, and then there's 54 on Tawny Oak. And of course, a lot of those are merged. Well, at least, I don't know if all the 12 residents on Tawny Oak have merged lots or not. I think there's a couple that have septic systems on their
There are
own
two.
lots.
But most of us, like, had to go and put that expense into.
Sure,
Buy the
I-
lot, clear the lot, pay for the septic system. This is only 3 years ago for us.
Sure,
A big chunk of change.
sure.
So, anyway, I think I better leave the rest so we can move on down the road, and I could be here all day.
Well,
Sorry, I don't mean to push you closer to
No,
retirement,
that's fine.
Bruce. but-
Yes, sir. Yep.
Ron Cronwell. I live on Tawny Oak Loop also. I have one of the merged lots. Pardon? Closer or farther? Okay. Is this better? All right. In part of your statement, you had said there were a number of lake access lots that would now be available for building if the sewer goes through. I question that because there, on Tawny Oak Loop, there's one lot that they've been trying to sell for a number of years that has lake access. Going back out towards the entrance, the last lake access lot is owned by the last homeowner. Beyond that, they don't access the lake. They access the half-time dry riverbed that feeds it. So where is this abundance of lake access lots that you're talking about?
If I said abundance, then I misspoke. I don't think I said abundance.
You
of
didn't
lot
say
lakes.
abundance, but you made it sound like a significant number of additional lake access lots would be available.
The lots on the opposite side of Tawny Oak from the lake, not all of them are merged lots.
Okay, but that's not a lake access lot.
I understand, sir. Areas around the lakes are supposedly under the influence of under-maintained septic systems. And so in order to keep the lakes clean, I was directed to focus on areas around the lakes. And Tawny Oak is certainly an area around the lakes. That's what I said. There are certainly lake lots there, and most of them are built on, but there are lots across the street that are still available that can't be built on because there is no second lot to be merged for a private septic system.
There are lots behind those across the lake, across the road. There are adjacent lots behind them that could be used for septic systems. It's beyond there is, off of Tawny Oak Loop, there is one house. Off of the side street, there is one house. There's an abundance of wooded lots available as second lots to somebody who would be building across the street from the lake, except we own most of them already. And one reason was in order to maintain the wooded nature of that small area, not to sell them off, to have them cleared of all the trees and get rid of the canopy and the cooler area and the fresher air that comes from wooded lots being close to us. So, number one, I was objecting to your, what I heard as increasing the number, significantly increasing the number of lake access lots with this sewer addition, at least down Tawny Oak Loop.
That was certainly not my intent.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the confusion. If you own a lot on both sides of a road, are you charged 2 sewer availability fees or just one? Or is it in between?
The new policy is 1 sewer availability fee and then $10 per foot per road frontage on
On one lot?
private septic system lot.
So would you be charged the $10 on both lots or just one?
1 availability fee.
Right.
Per the policy, and then the second lot with the private septic system is charged $10 per foot per road frontage.
Okay, I get that. Thank you.
Okay. Let's continue on. The next question you guys asked was about the notifications. I think I've addressed that. That was somewhat of a slip-up, and we don't have a go-back machine, so you know, we own up to the fact that we typically would do that. We changed the policy a couple of years ago that we send 3 letters out to the.
There are 4 letters.
4 letters, yeah.
That go out, and there are 4 each steps in the process supposed to go out. That's the normal procedure. And I'm still trying to determine, that's a lot for, again, normally, there are 4 letters. Normally, there are 4 letters sent out, and each letter is sent out before the next step in the process. And the fact that nobody got a letter of the 4 letters that are supposed to go out, I'm still trying to determine where and what happened. It did, obviously, if nobody saw one, we messed up. There was a procedural error during the transition that we were going through. But
That's huge.
you're right. There's no denying that. Right. And that's a mea culpa. We didn't get it to you. And I'm still trying to determine where that failed on us, because that procedure has been in place for 2 years, and it's very, very strict.
Well, lucky us. To be at the wrong end of that. You know, it's just amazing.
That is very unfortunate, and I apologize on behalf of the community club, but it happens. I can't fix it, but we can make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Well,
I'm sorry.
a fix to it is give up the project, stop it, because there was inadequate notice, there is failure of the system. So the fix is give up the project.
Well, the covenants and restrictions, okay? And I believe it's page 17. Yeah. On page 17 of the CNRs, it clearly states that a central sewer system has been constructed to serve portions of the Exhibit A, which is all the lots that are part of Fairfield Glade. The board of directors of the club shall be the sole judge as to the time when the central sewer system shall be extended to serve portions of Exhibit A. That's where this comes in. Now, there was a question about the 75%, and the 75% is a minimum, a minimum of 75% of the owners of all lots thereof, as determined by the board, and the board selects to make such an extension. So the 75% has to do with a community or a area that the members want to have sewer extended. In terms of extending sewer to any area that's not requested, that's a sole portion of the board. And the reason why the CNRs are written that way is if we went out to anybody and said, we're going to put a sewer in and it's going to cost you X dollars, the likelihood is everyone would say, don't do it. But in the best interest of the community, which is what this board is charged with, we have to look at what's best for the community, and that's where the CNRs have put that in with the board. So, I mean, I know this is not necessarily a conversation that people like to hear, but the fact of the matter is that's what the board is charged with, to take a look at where extensions should go and put them in. Because if we went out to the membership and asked, we would hear no.
Maybe not. I mean, I think for all of us that are there, we know what we think is best for us. So you have a few making decisions for the many, and I realize that you have a big community to oversee.
I'm sorry, can you come up here because people need to hear what you're saying, okay?
Sorry, that was me. Hey, buddy. Well, I just think that it's a community. We know there's an ACC and there's a board, but again, we have the few making decisions for the many who it directly impacts us both financially, feasibly, as far as tearing up lots, roads, streets, requiring us to connect. I don't know, and I know there is a clause in there where we are not required. It says strongly urged, not required to connect to the sewer system. So why go through with it if the majority of us don't want it, aren't going to connect to it? I don't need one more fee in my life like I need a hole in the head. We've already paid to merge our lots. We actually purchased an additional lot to keep our street green, to preserve what we love about it. And I also saw on here, this is just to bring up the cost situation, this is from February 2022. It says cost of extension is paid from that fund, which is income from all sewer collection system extensions are restricted to the availability fund. Cost of extensions is paid from the fund. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I'd like clarification.
Well, the fund has to be reimbursed. If we don't reimburse the fund by charging the availability fees, we run out of money.
But it doesn't say that here. That's,
Well,
yeah.
but that's the fact of life.
Well,
I mean, we don't have an unlimited fund, even in your own home budgets. If you're going to go out and do something, and it's got to do with maintenance of your property or whatever, you probably reimburse that so that you can do other maintenance that you need to do. We're not any different than that.
again, this is not in our budget, period. I mean, it's a big expense for those of us that already put a big expense into our property, keeping it nice, putting in the best of the best landscaping, buying additional lots. I just think there's so many unanswered questions, and I know you're going to get to them, but I just think this has just been so unfair. We don't want it, you know, and I get that you guys want all those lots, however many there are, to get built because you want the revenue. But you know what?
No, it's
Our
not.
quality of life has to be
I want to be careful
important.
with that, and I really mean what I say here. It's not that we want the revenue, the community wants the revenue.
Same thing to me.
No, it's not the same
I don't
thing.
want the revenue. I'm part of the community.
Well.
So I'm
and-
here speaking for
and
myself.
what I can tell you, if you read the CNRs.
I read them, I have them,
That's
believe me.
one of the reasons why the board was tasked with this responsibility. Because again, if you go to any street and you say, we're going to put in sewer and it's going to cost you X number of dollars, people are going to say, don't do it. But that's not necessarily in the best interest of the community.
I don't think this is here. This is motivated purely by financial reasons, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
for us. It has much bigger implications.
Go ahead.
To follow up on that, why are we being asked to pay in advance for this nice service when we have no intention of hooking up until our septic fields
Hold on.
fail?
Okay. We're not asking you to pay it in advance.
Well, I'm sorry, let me clarify.
There's an availability fee and there's hookup fees.
Right,
Every homeowner decides whether or not they want to hook into the sewer.
exactly, but
And
we have
you
to
will not
pay.
be charged
Okay.
either the monthly fee nor the hookup fees until you make that decision.
But we are being asked to pay by the foot to have that piece of pipe run by our property.
That's
And-
true.
And we're paying in advance so that you can improve the quality of the lots, but we have no benefit from that. We don't get benefit until we choose to hook up. Why should we incur that cost instead of the board putting that money in the bank and saying, we're going to invest this now because in the future that lot's going to sell, that buyer is going to pay the access fee, and that buyer is going to pay to hook up. Why would we support that? That doesn't make any sense to us.
When we put a pipe down, a sewer pipe, everyone has the availability of tapping into that sewer.
Right.
So the construction cost for putting that pipe in is shared by everyone. Whether there's a lot.
We're paying in advance.
Whether there's a house on that lot, a septic tank on that lot, or nothing on that lot, everyone gets charged the availability fee.
But why? Why in advance do we have to pay? I understand you have limited funds. I understand that. And your decision to make that extension should also be based on how much you can afford to do, rather than what we can afford to do. Why wouldn't that be a primary consideration? I don't understand.
Because if we ever got to the point where we said, well, we're not going to charge you for your lot to have availability to the sewer. You sell your home, you sell your lot, you do something else, and you can't keep track of all of that. So what we do is we
There are computers that can do that, really. Let me ask one more question. I want to go back to the very first one, the early one. Were any residents, the reason for the expansion choice of Tony Oak Loop, were there any residents or property owners asked, or did any resident or property owner make a request to get the sewer extended?
No.
No. And is that normal? Do you normally extend sewers without any input from residents? Or are there some cases where a resident will say, hey, I'm ready for sewer, what do I have to do? That must happen occasionally, right?
It does, and if they're more than 300 feet away, they pay for the extension in full.
Right.
They pay for it. And so in this case, there's 12 of you, 12 residents, 12 homes. There's 54 other lots that are affected.
Right.
And so have you talked to the owner of all 54 of those lots to say that we don't want it, we want to cancel it? Have they looked at building there but are restricted because there is no sewer available?
How many lots are Fairfield Glade?
4. 3 county lots, 4 Fairfield Glade lots,
Okay.
all in good standing.
Okay.
Copy of that lot map so we can see those lots? Because I kind of can't believe there's 54 lots. You can walk it out, we know where we are. We just want to see it, it'd be nice.
Certainly.
One more quickie.
Sure.
Are any of the vacant lots, whether they're sewer lots or septic lots or just simply vacant, are any of those vacant lots also being charged the per foot?
All of them are being
All of
charged.
I'm sorry?
all of them.
All of them.
Are also being charged $100 per foot?
Yes, sir.
And whether they're private residents or community-owned or whatever.
The only
they
lots
might
that
be.
don't get charged are county lots, because we have no platform to charge the county,
Okay.
of which there's 3. 3 out of the 66.
So the availability fee for the sewer to come in is going to be charged to all the vacant lots along the way?
Every one of them.
And it's going to charge me for my residential lot and also my lot across the street?
Your private septic system.
So in
lot.
other words, this letter I got is short because it only tells me that I owe $2,100 for the house that I live in, not the residence or the lot across the street.
I'm not sure about that.
My understanding of those charges are, it's only linear feet in the path. If you have 2 adjacent lots side by side along the street, you pay per foot for all that frontage. If the lots are across from each other, it's still the same trench. The lot across the street is not being charged, as I understand. If it's a merged lot for your own septic system, is that not correct?
I can't say one way or the other. I thought that it was charged $10 a foot for road frontage. That was my thought, and so.
I think that's right.
Say again.
I think that's right, what we're said.
We're not charged across the street.
You
Or
would
we
be.
are.
You are.
Why would that be? If
Because
there's,
you own that property. It's
What if
not,
what if there are two vacant lots that the sewer runs by? Who do we charge, one or the other? We can't differentiate there.
Yeah, well, if there's two separate owners, I can understand that. There's two owners that are benefiting. But if the lots are across the street from each other, the cost per foot to run that piece of pipe is still the same. And to pay double because you happen to have lots on each side of the street, to me, doesn't make sense. If you have lots along the street, yes, that makes sense. But if you're on opposite sides of the streets, that makes no sense at all. And my understanding of the reading, I don't have that in front of me, but my understanding of the reading is that only applies to adjacent lots that are in line with the sewer line, not across the street from each other. We really want to clarify that. We're hoping, really, obviously, that you're going to, as a board, say, hey, this is more headache than we want, it's unfair to the people there, and it's off the table. We hope that's going to be the case. But if not, we need to address a few of these things up front so we know what we're faced with. It could affect, future plans for how we might come back and address you. It really is kind of a problem for us. It's kind of strange. I'm sorry for another last question. I've got one kind of later in the series that you're probably going to get to, but my understanding, there was a long-term goal of getting to Bainbridge and down Bainbridge to Pomeroy. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that?
That's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
So, we've got another project in the works, on the radar, that's on the other side of the lake. And once again, we try not to divulge that type of information to the public.
I understand that.
Because of the potential that these contractors are going to go in
Sure.
there under
Yes.
price the lots, knowing that sewer is going to be coming through.
Right,
And so-
timing is critical. But in order to serve Pomeroy
No, from St.
Drive,
George, from Tawny Oak and St. George, that's not a hard surface road. And so if that road was chip and sealed all the way to Bainbridge, then it would be, it would certainly be a potential for a sewer extension. But that road is just gravel. It's not a hard surface road.
and that prohibits sewer work for,
It doesn't prohibit it, but now the county is requiring that gravel roads be, if they're hard surface, if they chip and seal or pave them, they're brought up to county specs. And so it doesn't make any sense for us to put sewer in there because the majority of the contractors building in Fairfield won't build on a gravel road. They'll be on the hook to upgrade the road.
okay.
And that's an additional
Yeah,
expense.
that's a pretty large hunk of our development. But you're saying that you're dead ending, you're going to dead end in Tawny Oak Loop. You're not continuing along St. George
That's correct.
any further than the entrance of Tawny.
Around Tawny Oak to where that turns into gravel.
Okay.
That will be the end of the line.
Okay.
Until such time that the rest of the road is
Okay.
hard surfaced.
And no resident in that dead end section of road, no resident has requested that you supply them with sewer service at this time. Is that correct? Okay.
again, I mean, that's why the CNRs were written the way they were, is that we don't, I don't know of a time, there probably has been somewhere along the line, Bruce, you may know, I don't know of a time when a group of residents have invoked the 75%, because basically we look at where development can go and where we can expand that development for the good of the community.
Okay, but why come into a dead-end system when nobody wants it? What's driving this to happen now? Is there some future thing that's going to make it more expensive or impossible? Why now? Why would we want to do this now?
Well, it goes back to what Bruce said at the very beginning in terms of the criteria, in terms of where we are going to put sewer for the development, and that's what we look at.
It basically goes back to the additional 54 lots
Yeah.
that aren't built on. Not specifically
Not sure-
Tawny Oak.
See, that's somewhere the user should be driving this. Why it's being driven by the people running the backhoe makes no sense, you know what I'm saying? If people want the sewer and they request it, great, let's all get together and do that. But if there's no interest in it, if there's no desire for it, if we've already paid for a septic system that's still working fine, Why does that get driven?
Well, typically developers look for areas where sewer is and roads.
Okay, and has
That's
any...
what they look for.
Let me ask, has any developer expressed an interest in developing something along this Tawny Oak Loop and want sewer? Has any developer done that yet?
Well, when we actually sat down, I know I was at a meeting a couple of years ago, and yes, developers said, if you guys, that's how we got to part of the conversation around where we extend sewer, because we're looking for areas where people will build if we extend the sewers.
If, okay, big if. We're happy to have developers do their thing, that's great, but why today? Why not wait until people actually express an interest?
Because it's a chicken and an egg thing. If you wait for developers, they're not going to come to you because they'll find other areas where the sewer already is.
I beg to differ. Developers are there for the purpose of making money.
That's
If
right.
they see an opportunity on Tawny Oak Loop to sell some lots and build some houses, they're going to be knocking on your door. That's got to be a given. But why would we anticipate that might happen? Maybe it's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. Why
Because
would we
our
anticipate?
experience has been when we extend sewer, developers come in.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes?
Go on ahead.
Amherst Drive.
I'm sorry?
Amherst Drive.
Amherst Drive, okay.
Wycliffe. Malvern Road. Capshire Road. Hawes Circle. Hawes Circle. Do you know Hawes Circle?
Okay. Those are all...
We put sewer in a year ago. It's almost...
I'm not good at the geometry, so I don't know where you're talking about. But are all your examples that you've just mentioned...
Yes, sir.
Cases where sewer was extended because it was requested? So there are examples. You extend to handle the request. Why would you spend time on an area that doesn't want it when there are other people that are requesting it?
We don't know that
Bruce, can I clarify?
it's not wanted.
On all those locations you said, you weren't saying that they were requested. You're saying that once sewer was put in, developers increased their interest in buying those lots.
Correct.
It wasn't requested beforehand. It increased the opportunity to sell those lots because of the availability of sewer.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
Then the other side of that coin is, we're paying money now so that developers can come along later and benefit from our having paid. The developers haven't owned the lots, so they're not paying.
There are other people that own the lots, not just.
Yes, only the people that own the lots. But the developers don't own the lots. They're going to come along and say, I want to do that. Well, that's great, but we are doing...
Developers look for the lots that have sewers to build houses.
Pardon me?
Developers look for the lots that have sewer available.
Exactly. And the only way they're going to look for those lots is if I pay to have that piece of pipe run by my house. Why would I want to pay so that the developers can look at this and say,
Those
good?
54 lots that aren't developed. They want their lots to eventually be developed. It increases the probability those lots are going to sell when that sewer is available.
And has anybody in Tawny Oak Loop owning a lot indicated they'd like to have sewer so they can sell their lot? No Tawny Oak Loop owner, as I'm hearing it right, has requested this. So you guys are making it, but really basically a judgment that this is a good thing to do, even though nobody wants it. And my...
Well, hold on.
Uh-huh.
We have 12 homes, I think, that are saying you don't want it.
Okay.
The other 54 lots have said nothing, but we know from past experience, once we get sewer down there and make it available, that the likelihood is they're going to develop those lots, and they're going to build on.
By your own admission, none of those 54 will say they want it if you went and asked them. Exactly. That's what you just said. You said if you go out and ask somebody, do you want sewer, you're going to say no. And I understand that. So how can we really justify forcing us to take this when there's really no interest today, right now, today, there's no interest?
You don't know that. What we have seen from prior experience is that when we put sewer in, the developers will come in and start building.
Okay.
If we don't put sewer in, they won't.
You're asking us to pay in advance based on your expectation that it is going to pay off, and that's not fair. That's not right for us. We have a perfectly good running system that works fine.
And you're not going to be required to
I'm
tap
going to be
into the
required to
sewer.
pay $100 a foot for a piece of raw pipe coming by
Not
my house.
$100 a foot.
Whatever it is. $2,000 I'm going to be charged
10.
to run a piece of pipe that I don't want to use, cannot use, don't need to use, and all my neighbors don't want and can't use, because you folks are anticipating
Well,
something
let me
that's
ask you
going to happen.
this, okay?
Sorry?
I've heard your side of the story.
Yes, exactly.
How would you expect the board ever to develop anything if we always say, well, we're gonna ask for every person whether or not you want the sewer to go through, and every time we try to develop something, the answer is no.
If I had that insight, I'd be sitting in your chair. I don't know how to run a function.
And that's why the CNRs speak to this the way it does, because you can't go out and ask everybody, do you want to spend $2,000?
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that that's why the CNRs are written the way they are, because you have to say to people like the board, what's best for the community, not what's best for the individual property owner.
Okay.
Okay?
But we're still back to a question of timing. Question of timing. To us, this is premature, and we don't understand why you're pushing it in our little community when there's
Because
so
we want
many
those-
other areas.
We want those lots developed. That's the whole purpose of what all the land is around here. At some point, we want all of that land developed. Now, it's years and years and years off, but the fact of the matter is, if we don't take actions in areas where we believe developers will come in and build homes, we're not working for the best interest of this community. We may be working for the best interest for a small number of homeowners, but it won't be for the best of the area, for the best interest of the overall community.
What if we could find a spot for it?
Yeah.
Why can't you wait and have the developers pay you back for what you've done?
The developers,
Developers can come in here and build lots. When they come in, they pay the fees that it costs you to lay that sewer.
they do.
You're asking us to pay for it.
You
Why
will-
can't they pay for it at the time?
Because there is no such thing as a free ride on this. If we're laying sewer pipe down, everyone that has that access now is to pay. Some of that will be people like you that have homes there. There are a number of those open lots that either developers will pay for or someone will pay for that will have to pay for that extension as well. But we don't separate out and say, gee, we're going to exclude this group. If the pipe goes through, it's available for anyone who wants to tap into it.
So I have a question. A lot of those, I know there's a lot of open property, I walk that area, I live there. I know that there's a lot of open area to build. But the question is, on Tawny Oak itself, a lot of those lots have septic on them. If you're gonna put the sewer there, but there's still gonna be a septic system, unless one of those homeowners decide we want to spend tens of thousands of dollars to remove this. So that's not a buildable lot. So she has a lot across the street that's not buildable, even if you put a sewer there. I bought a property across, because I saw a developer come in, a guy came in and was saying, oh, we're gonna build here, if the Glade will sell you your piece of property, which I thought the Glade actually had certain areas that were supposed to be open or not, so we don't look like one big community. But I bought that lot because I didn't want to develop, I don't want to look outside my house and look at a house, because that's the right lot. So now I'm gonna get penalized because I might get more than one lot that gets developed. So now I have to pay for my home lot and my undeveloped property across the street, because I actually bought lots so I don't get developed. I don't want the area being developed. I know I'm in a community that is in process of being developed. I'm a community, I know that. There's a lot of lots. I'm just saying, I'm gonna get penalized now because I have more than one piece of property, and now you're putting sewer in where we really don't want, and I gotta pay a lot more money for something, and I'm never selling my property because I don't want my section developed. And I think that's unfair, because retired, and I had some disposable income, and now I put it out to property, now you're asking me to spend thousands of dollars that I probably don't have, and how am I supposed to come up with this? Or do I get a loan to pay for this? How am I supposed to pay for this? Because I took my disposable income to buy land, to keep the deer and everything in my section, and now I don't have an extra $5,000 and hook up fees and removal of the septic off my property.
Well, let's start with the facts there, okay? There is no requirement, even though the pipe goes down, the sewer line goes down, there is no requirement that anyone who's on a septic system that works now has to tap into it right away. That's up to the homeowner.
But we have to pay the initial fee.
$2,600 in front of my house, property across the street that I own, it's not gonna get called. Where am I coming up with this, this money that I wasn't planning? I just canceled the trip to go to Ireland to see my son, because that trip to Ireland is now my sewer that I wasn't planning on. So that's what I'm saying, like, I wasn't planning on this major expense, and I bought extra property to keep it, and am I paying extra for lots that, I own, and my own lots, and where am I coming, and where do you think I'm gonna come up with this money, and when did you want to buy?
I think that goes back, we should have been informed a long time ago with your letter. That onus is on you. Perhaps you could have planned for some sort of expense we were going to have down the road, 2 years, 3 years. But you did this letter saying this is going to happen in April. That is not going to pay. There's just no way. We're not all retired, not fixed income, and costs are just eating every day. We should have been given those advance notices to address all this ahead of time. And if need be, plan for that expense, not within 2 months. We just can't pull it out of our, not here.
Well, the fees don't get charged until the sewer line is put in.
Right, but you're gonna put it in, and where do you think I'm gonna come with that money? I just bought property so I wouldn't have a developer put a house in front of my house. And now that money, that I know the sewer's coming, maybe I would, I could still tell you about that, yeah, because I don't want a house in front of my house. I bought 2 lots outside of my home, and then they're a year. And now I have to change my lifestyle, because now I have to come up with another $3,000. And I have no idea where I'm supposed to come up with that, unless I run off and get a job out of the city, and you know what I'm saying? You're changing my life, because I just took my disposable income off property to keep my area undeveloped for now. Couldn't see it undeveloped because I left the city of Chicago to get away from it, and my sister lives in Arizona, and it's house after house after house after house, which is fine. And that's not what I was looking for when I found this. I thought this was great. And then I was told that there is areas that are not going to be developed. I knew where ours was. Is there still property that's not going to be developed, or are we just going to be talking house after house after house after house after house? I bought property, and now I'm going to be paying extra to sewer did, and I wasn't expecting that expense. And I don't know where you think I'm going to come up with it now, because I just something to avoid.
Is Fairfield Glade paying for their property that they own on?
Yes.
On 20 Oak?
Yes.
The full property?
Yes.
Can we get a breakout for each lot, how the fee was calculated? I'd like to see it for each and every lot. I want the full calculation.
We will show the individual owners how it was calculated.
But not-
Because information like that is private to the individual, and, the calculation is the same. The calculation is in the policy of how we do that.
But it's not private in the effect that we can't see and are assured who's paying for what. You're telling us so, but I don't know that maybe the lot across the street here, for some reason,
The calculation is the same for every lot that pays.
They're paying for their house and the lot across the street? I think that might have been a request. What about if the lot is adjacent to the street?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what your question is.
Our second lot is adjacent to the street, it's not across the street.
Side by
Side by side.
So it's
$10 per foot per
Yeah.
frontage.
Same.
$10 per foot.
per road frontage.
It's a road
50
frontage.
foot of
it's
road
not-
frontage would be $500. So the availability fee is based on 75-foot road frontage on average. Anything under that is charged $28 a foot, which is less than the $21.53. $21.53 is the max availability fee per lot. On a merge lot that's adjacent or across the street is charged $10 per linear foot of road frontage.
And that calculation, by the way, was changed last year when residents came in and said, it's not fair the way you're actually charging me on the lot. And the board looked at that and we changed the policy.
Continuing charges going forward if none of us hook up to sewer?
No.
So this would be it?
One time.
One time, that's it. Until you choose to hook on.
How do we address the situation logistically where we have all of our lines running under the road to our lots across the road? How are we going to guarantee that those won't be disturbed or damaged in any way when you start digging under the road to put this pipe in? Brand new septic system.
We dig under the road and utilities all the time, every day. That's what we do.
Sorry, I'm having space too much right now, so I just wanted to ask.
I'm going to deviate just a little bit because I've heard several times how many lots are involved, 50-some lots. But if you're only going to the edge of the gravel, then all those lots on that east side are void. It appears to me that really the only lots in question be the ones between St. George and Fox Den. Past Fox Den are all pretty much occupied.
I believe there's a few more lots around the corner that are still privately owned, that aren't merged. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think those are all.
But I know
in
there's 50.
Yeah, I believe those are all in private hands. But let's say, for example, that there's only the lots between St. George and Fox Den that are the prime. We're waiting for them to come, and they're going to be excited. That's really more like 4 or 5 or 6 lots, and without involving all the rest of the occupied lots, if that exposes those to the developers that want to come in and build, is that sufficient to make it worthwhile to run your line? If you stop before Fox Den, is that sufficient to justify the time to do it so that you can expose those lots to the developers? Is that a question for the board? I'm not sure who makes that decision. You follow what I'm saying? There really is, the geometry is such that there really is only good developable lots on the paved surface, the hard surface. And that's really the section of Tawny Oak between St. George and Fox Den. I believe there's 6 lots, maybe 7 lots along that piece of road, not the 54 that wrap all the way around. To me, if you're looking to get vacant lots sold, those are the only ones. You're not going to put the pipe on the gravel, so the only ones you're really going to be making attractive to a developer are those few that are between St. George and Fox Den. And if you do that, I'm convinced that there's 12 people that'll be very happy to have that pipe stop before Fox Den so that the developers then can come in and do that. At some point in the future, if other developers say, okay, they're doing that, pave this road so I can develop that, then we'd be willing to pay for the pipe that will come over there if that's what it turns out to be. But right now, in the short term, there really are only a very few lots that you're going to target, that you're going to make attractive to people. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
You want to take that one, or you want me to?
Well, we have to follow a sewer master plan.
Have to follow what?
A sewer master plan. So back in 97, 98, a sewer master plan for the entire.
Who controls the sewer master plan? Should we be talking to that person as well?
Well, I oversee the master plan, so And so when we extend sewer, we follow the master plan as designed by
Right.
the engineer.
The master plan was developed by somebody. Is that person here that?
No.
No, okay. So we should address separately the master plan. But let's say, for example, the master plan is not driving this. We're talking about really making lots attractive to a developer by adding sewer. Right now, there's only there's certainly less than a dozen lots, more probably in the order of 10 lots, 8 lots maximum, if both sides of the street. That, to me, is what you are trying to target, what you're trying to make a decision on, that this is the benefit for the
When we
community.
make a decision on sewer extensions, we look at areas. We don't look at where we're going to stop. We try to take a look at what makes sense in that area to develop.
Okay.
So when we look at it, it may not have a road on it now, but if it makes sense to extend that sewer line there, we're probably going to do it.
Okay, but in this case, you're not. You're not going up into the gravel road, correct?
Correct.
So in this case, the decision is, there's no way you're going on at this point beyond where our houses are. And in fact, there's really, most of those lots are owned. There's only the few between St. George and Fox Den that would fall into the category of a developable lot, something that a developer might be interested in. Why not stop short of Fox Den, make that decision? That'll take care of the little bit of St. George and so forth, but it will save us the expense of contributing to the development later on in the future. That's really of no interest to us at this point in time. Is that a consideration for you when you're making your deliberation? Does that make sense to you at this point in time?
We could certainly discuss it, and I know exactly what you're saying. Just past Fox Den, before the first residence. Once again, the sewer master plan, and I'm not following a plan, the sewer master plan identifies where the pipes need to be laid and what direction the flow needs to go. And so a gap where the current homes are on Tawny Oak is going to cause issues with that master plan.
Well, it can't be a gap if you don't extend the end of the pipe.
It will be a gap on Tawny Oak that's gravel right now once it's hard surfaced. Correct?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're coming in from the west end of Tawny Oak Loop, correct?
Off of St. George, correct.
Off St. George. So that first section when you're going toward the lake is the hard surface up to Fox Den.
Yes.
If your sewer line comes and stops at Fox Den, it's not creating any gap.
What about on the backside of Tawny Oak?
What on what?
On the back, where Tawny Oak turns to gravel.
Yes. If you don't go that far, there's no gap. If it makes sense to extend it in the future because a resident has said, for example, I want sewer. So you extend this line that's already there. You've saved them a bunch of money because you've built the pipe that far. You can extend the pipe in the future, take care of those that want it. Or if a developer says, I see you've got lots on the hard copy, I want to develop one over here. Can you extend that line? Well, great. That makes all kinds of sense.
Let a private lot owner on the gravel section of Tawny Oak pay for it all.
I'm sorry, the gravel over, sorry?
Let a private citizen, a private lot owner on Tawny Oak on the gravel section pay for it all to run around the corner is basically what you're saying.
he would, well, you're going to run it by our houses, so at that point in time, we'd have to come back and say, we don't want to pay that, and you're going to say, well, you're going to pay it because there's a resident over here that wants this, and now it makes some sense. It doesn't make any sense now. It doesn't make a lot of sense in the future either because there's nothing going on over there. But at the very least, it alleviates one of the major concerns that we have, and that is paying that money up front to run a pipe that nobody's going to use for some period of time. And if the goal is get some other lots in the development process, get them exposed to a developer that's going to come and develop them, great. Stop short of Fox Den, and you do that. You've added lots to the community that right now are idle, that are doing nothing, without involving us guys that don't want to pay for that thing right now.
Tawny Oak Loop, from the section you're talking about where our houses are, there's not a lot of lots built. I own a section of land there that I'm not selling. Mega septics, so I think there might only be, and I don't know, maybe ask for lots open to be developed on that strip right now.
Actually, prior to Fox Den.
Prior to Fox Den, and Fox Den is, there's a lot of buildable lots in that section. But after Fox Den, all the way to that dirt road, where the majority of our little houses are, there's not a lot of buildable lots because of septic, and some of us own those lots because we didn't want, development into that section. So that's why I think we're so upset over it, is the fact that, well, we don't want it. We bought properties across, adjacent to our properties. I bought 2 lots to keep my section wooded and, because I know it's developable, it's there for development, and since I know that I bought off some property to keep it that way, and the others have septic on it, so they weren't buildable. So, yes, all around us is buildable. You can build an entire community all around Tawny Oak. It's not on our little sections, it's really not a buildable section because there's still septic there. And it's all hooked up. We're not spending $10,000 to remove the septic system. You can't build on those lots. You can build behind them, around us. So I guess we're just wondering why we put that in right now, especially when you have so much land that is buildable and stopped at Fox Den. And then if the development continues to go around, then that would be worse. But right now, there's not a ton of lots on Tawny Oak Loop. There's just not.
It's time to dig out the lots here and make some concessions, but that's not some good ideas. I think we need to be open-minded about what he's proposing, and still remain open-minded about down the road. And he can back up to the point where we were notified. So that's huge.
This huge expense that I can't afford.
That's right. And
On extra lots that I'm not building on. When my house lot and other lots that you want me to pay for, and you can say about all these lots that are buildable, but there's not a lot of buildable lots in this particular section. But between St. George and Fox Den, yes, there are a lot of buildable lots there. And St. George and Bainbridge and all around, we know there's a lot of buildable, and we are stupid, we know that eventually they are going to get built on. But unless you plan on developing that big area, and go up to Fox Den, because I know there's houses being built over there. I'm watching the progress, I live there. It's just that one section of road is not as buildable as you're thinking. I mean, those lots are just, they're used up, they're not buildable, and,
You folks have been incredibly patient in going through all this, and it's not easy for us either. But my question right at this point is, have we said anything that at least gives you pause in making the approval for this project? Does this project look less attractive now than it did, say, 2 months ago or 3 months ago? Or do we need to now look ahead to more meetings and more discussion so that if we can't convince you, you at least have an opportunity to convince us? Right now, we're kind of a single mind that this is not good for us. If you still are of the mind that it is good for you as the board, then we'd like to look ahead to set up some more conversation. We're kind of starting to duplicate ourselves a little bit now, so we've almost exhausted, I believe anyway, exhausted what we came here to say. But
well, I think the main thing here is, and I could put myself in your seat. Okay, I really can. I'm a resident here. I don't like to get fees that I hadn't anticipated and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that we look for areas, and I'm not going to go lot by lot, but we look for areas where it makes sense to put sewer in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really our charge. And, I mean, we'll talk about this. I'm not saying the conversation is dead, but at the same time, when we made these decisions to do that, we rely on our operational folks to tell us if we're going in to do something, it makes sense to do it in this area. We don't look lot by lot by lot by lot, because if we did that, we'd go insane.
Right, but there has to be a timing element in there as well.
Well-
Does it make sense to do it now versus make sense to do
Well,
it a year
again,
from
it's
now?
the chicken and the egg thing, and I
Mhm.
get your
Okay.
question, I really do.
Mhm.
I'm not being insensitive to that.
Mhm.
But we have had many experiences where when we put the sewer in, the developers come.
Okay.
I'd like to see what lots are still open, because a lot of those lots are saying can't be developed. There's, either they're privately owned by some of us on that particular road, or there's something that's on there so you can't build on it.
Have you talked to the owners of the 4 lots that are developed?
No, I have not yet, because I'm just trying to figure this out. I mean, yeah, but if you were, if you were starting, if you were going to add the sewer all around the whole loop and do St. George and the whole loop, and then you were put in it, I see it, because it's all really developed, buildable lots. Those are lots that you can develop. There's nothing on them. There's no septic. There's, no ownership. I don't own that land. So it's all very buildable all around us. We are all very well aware that it's all buildable. But you're only one with the sewer line on the road that is paved, and that particular section doesn't have a lot of buildable lots. They're purchased by us to keep it that way. But if you were to go up those dirt roads and all that, then we're talking a whole different kettle of fish. And now we're like, okay, yes, we can see the development coming in. We realize you're going to put in 200 new homes, and yeah, we get it. But that little section where you're talking is paved. There's not a lot of big development on that section. Prior to it, up to 510, yeah, there's a ton of homes up there. And all behind it, where you're not going to put the sewer is, you can build a ton of homes there.
Or pave St. George, if you got the hard surface at St. George, that would open up that whole area.
All the way there between Pawnee and Bainbridge. I mean, we're not wrong, we know it gets good. I mean, we know it, and we know it's black.
Okay, there was a list of questions that were submitted. Can we answer those questions for the benefit of the audience and then decide what we're going from here?
So, number 6, I think, Greg, was
Well, the assessments for the charges are in the policy, and you can read the policy. It's available for you to look at. It's out on the member website, so the calculations are there in terms of how we calculate it. So if you have a desire to go look at that, if you have questions about it after you've read it, we'll certainly answer those. But the calculations of how we made the assessments are right there, okay? So there's,
That's in the letter we got saying this is what you, this is your linear feet, times this much, $10 a linear foot, that should be in that letter of February 5th. Not, hey, strike us a check for this amount of money. No backup, no warning. I'm just saying, I know you can't undo that, but there has to be some consideration that that was.
So the short answer to number 6 is no. Is that correct?
yes. That's correct.
And this calls for speculation, but does that make sense to you?
It does, based on the CNRs.
yeah, it
Yes.
does.
Okay, for the reasons you've stated, that because it's for the betterment of the community, basically.
Well, it's not.
But there's various lots in here. We're kind of going around in circles on the same, and I apologize for that, but there are a few lots that look like they're pretty prime for development and will become attractive with sewer. We think those lots are pretty small in number compared to all of us that are occupied. So is there a takeaway that we can explore that looks at shortening the proposal before we get into the approval of the proposal, is there something that we can do to discuss shortening the proposal that will be at benefit to the residents and still satisfy at least the partial goal, which is to get developers interested in developing them? I think we'd all be more amenable if we saw that this really does happen, that developers come swarming to the area, but it would delay the inevitable. The inevitability is there's going to be sewer there. But I got to believe there's other areas of Fairfield Glade that are just as prime as Tawny Oak Loop and probably less resistant. We think we're 100% resistant. Maybe other areas are only 50% resistant.
Well,
I don't know.
let's not get into speculating on resistance. Could we answer the rest of the questions? Because that's why you all submitted them. We've taken the time to put together some answers.
Okay.
Let's give you the answers, and then we'll figure out where we go from here.
Okay.
Can we do that?
I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
So number 7, in the case of newer homes, is there any way to completely opt out? And according to the policies in place, there is not. It's a one-time availability fee calculated based on the new policy that was approved in April 23. So no, there is no way to completely opt out. Number 8, how is the cost determined? And I'm assuming that's the availability cost, and that's based on the average road frontage of 75 feet. Anything more than that is still charged at $21.53. Anything less than that is charged $28 a foot. So a 60-foot road frontage lot would be less than the $21.53. And then in the case of merged lots with private septic systems, it's $10 per foot for each foot of road frontage.
Merge thing, $10 a foot for the merge?
No.
So, the house is not a lot, there's and then we need a max of 2150, for that basically, and that house, we can have a merge lot, adjacent to it, and then that cost, we calculated at $10 a foot.
Correct. And that's based on the original plat. So the original plat shows lot lines before the lots were merged, okay? So cost of sewer extension, the project is probably, I haven't, somewhere around $55,000 for the sewer department to install it. Destruction of any property, we do not go on private property. So there's a 10-foot easement on each side of the road, a utility easement on each side of the road. We install the sewer just off the hard surfaced road. We go around the apron of all the driveways that are currently, have already been constructed. And so we will not destroy any of your property, and if we do, we put it back as like.
I was curious if anybody did a cost assessment. If we are to hook up to the sewer at some point, what does that entail? What does it cost to the homeowner to do that? And then what happens if
Let's finish answering the questions.
So monthly sewer service fees are $30 a month if you choose to tie in. As soon as you tie in, it's $30 a month. I think we've gone over the calculation on the availability fees, which is Part C. Will the initial cost in Jane's letter change with the result of the survey? No. That's a direct mathematical calculation.
But you skipped all the other lines, 4, 5, 6, under 8. That's what I'm asking about.
Because you're worried about septics leaking later on into the lakes or, failing. But let's say we decide, okay, we're going to use the sewer and move our septics. Well, now we're not going to maintain a septic system. I guess, and we have to be pretty expensive removing it, which is it's very expensive. That's the question, what would be done with this, like, septic systems? What happens
leach field, nothing happens. There's a D-box, water's pumped through a series of drain pipes under the ground, and nothing happens. Especially in this case where it's never going to be built on, supposedly. So the septic tank is the responsibility of the homeowner if you choose to tie into the sewer system. The sewer department will come in and set a grinder pump and plumb from your septic tank into the grinder pump. You'd be responsible for a plumber from the house to the grinder pump, and then we would run the discharge and tie it into the new sewer main on the road. We would go back and redo, fix the,
That's a huge cost, and that's taking out our entire front yard. A septic tank is sunk on our property. This is another kind of risk.
We don't require you to dig up the septic tank unless there's a problem with it. So,
We have to pay for a plumber to hook it from the septic system to the water system. We have to pay for that.
yes.
For a plumber.
But again, you're not required to tap into the sewer unless you choose to.
Right, but if that part is the case, at some point down the road, it would be nice to know how.
Or when I go sell my home, and, yeah, we're on sewer, and then they ask, well, no, I'm using septic, but if you want to spend, you know, an extra 10 grand, certainly.
But the flip of that conversation is, if we never ran a sewer down there, and you had a problem with the septic system, who would be responsible?
Right. But I'm gonna pay an extra 3 grand, plus I now have to pay extra money because I have property that's not annexed to my property, which won't allow us to annex it because it's across the street. So I have to pay all these extra fees that I wasn't planning on paying to put in sewer.
The only extra fee you're required to pay is the accessibility fee. That's it. Anything after that is if you have a problem with your sewer, you have to get off, your septic, you have to get off of it, that's up to you.
I have septic, I know eventually I will have to pay to get it fixed, or I have to get them come out, yeah, I understand. But now you're asking me to pay thousands of dollars to put in a sewer, which I may or may not connect to, and then if I do, I'm going to incur it's thousands of dollars, $10,000 or more to reformat my house, or I don't do it at all, but then when I go sell my house, I say, well, there's sewer, but I'm not connected, and you have to spend.
But that is up to you.
I know.
Okay? That is up to you. You control that decision. We
You're
don't.
asking us to incur double expenditures here, or leave our septics, and then you're about septics being not maintained, but if it's outside out of mind, it's sitting on another lot, it's not connected.
The only fee you will be charged is the accessibility fee, period. Everything else is up to you.
But I have to come up with this extra.
That's true.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting that I now have to, what, get out a loan? Are you going to allow me to make monthly payments? How am I supposed to pay you? When I wasn't expecting, that I took that money that I would have paid for sewer and bought a property. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to come up with the money that you decided that I should spend. How am I coming up with that? My $2,000 a month check that I get to live on, to buy my groceries and pay for my stuff. You want me to come up with $3 grand? I just like to know how to think I'm doing it.
Can we answer the rest of the questions,
Let's go on.
please?
So, you've asked for a detailed spreadsheet outlining all of the costs or how the costs were determined, and that's been put together, and Greg will certainly propose that we share your individual ones,
We will give you the
but not
individual
each.
information for each home, if that's what you want, but we're not going to publish something that has everyone's information on it.
But I will confirm that every single lot affected by any extension is charged a one-time availability fee. So, will there be a mandatory, except the county lots,
Yeah,
because we
except
have
the
no way to
county.
collect on them? Yes, thank you. Will there be a mandatory monthly hookup fee? There won't be any fees unless you choose to hook up to the Fairfield Glade sewer system, other than the one-time availability fee, period. Then the date of 2023 was a misprint.
Yeah.
Question number 10. It was actually January 2024. And the CARs are outlined in there. So that 75% of property owners, that's part of the CNRs and the new policy, but there's also a section of the CNRs that give authority to the board to approve sewer extensions as deemed necessary. The fees to be charged to the residents are simply a one-time availability fee, and we've discussed how that's calculated.
I've got a question on sewer. Is that going to run adjacent to the gas line that's put in that didn't have advanced notice on that?
On the gas line?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but typically we have to be on the opposite side of the road as water for the 10-foot separation. We have a minimum 10-foot separation between potable water and sewer.
It would go on the homeowner's side?
Apparently, if Crab Orchard's on the other side, yes. And once again, we'll be just off the shoulder of the road, we'll go around the driveways so as not to damage any of the aprons of the.
That is all right. It took months and months to finish that situation, and they left all kinds of rocks and gravel in the ditches there where the water would flow down freely to the lake.
Sure.
And everybody complained about that, nothing was done about it. What I'm wondering is, when they decide to put this sewer in through there, are they gonna give us a nice paved road where you go in other places that didn't need it? Because that road hasn't been touched since I've been there 27 years.
I can't speak to the paving operation.
If you're gonna put sewer in it, they're gonna wanna build. They're gonna probably put a nice road in there too. Just a question.
The gas company actually dug, because the gas company doesn't do open trenching.
No, they ran adjacent to the trench, which took them months and months.
Okay.
They aggravated situations for all the homeowners there.
Sure.
And left it terrible, where they had to come back, redig it all out. And I just wonder if it's gonna be the same way with the sewer, because that's all on a rock out.
No, we clean it better ourselves. So,
It took them forever.
And that was your natural gas company, that was not
Yeah.
Fairfield Glade.
That wasn't
So let's be very
Fairfield Glade.
clear on that. Okay, that was the natural gas company, was not the Glade. Go ahead.
we've discussed how far it's projected or proposed to be run, and based on the conversations that we've had, we'll have a discussion to see if ending it at Fox Den is a more plausible solution, but I can't answer that question. I can answer where it's proposed to end, and that's at the gravel road, at the gravel portion. And the merged septic lots, I believe the new policy says that the merged septic lots stay merged.
They stay merged, so you won't get any additional fees. The old policy, they would be unmerged, but now they stay merged. We changed that last year.
How many homes on the proposed extension route along St. George Drive do not currently have access to the sewer connection? And that's all of them. All of the homes on St. George that are affected by this particular line have no sewer, no public sewer.
Wow, say that again.
So St. George is up to the point where we're going to tie in and go down St. George towards Tawny Oak.
Okay.
That's where the central sewer system ends. So any houses past that point are on septic.
There's another one.
Well, things on septic.
Yeah, okay.
Where's the point on St. George?
Can I answer?
Sure.
The house, there's, when you come off Tony Oak, going out, one house is built, it's not on sewer. The next one up, and the next one up, which is like 8 lots, 10 lots up, 50 lots, that's on sewer. Yeah, Westchester.
What about the other side? The other side.
Yes, their sewer was extended to what's that little street?
Oh, yeah, I know.
The little street is there. Now, the sewer was extended across.
Where they're building.
St. George was building the first pool, and it was already extended.
lot owners along St. George, Tawny Oak, Foxton also be required to help pay for this, absolutely. Every lot platted on the map will be charged a sewer availability fee. And that basically answers the rest of them. Are the vacant lot owners on Burnt Oak Terrace and Bellingwood Plaza also included? No. We are not bringing sewer down those roads because they're not a hard surface and they don't have water or power. If the long-term goal is to get down Bainbridge, and that's not the case at all. The long-term goal was to provide additional building lots to keep Fairfield Glade growing. And Tawny Oak met all of the criteria.
So Bainbridge is not currently on the master plan?
No, sir. It's on the radar, and it's certainly being discussed, but there's sections of Bainbridge that right now are gravel only. I believe that answered all of the questions.
That's all the questions.
Do we get to 16?
16. Will the fact that monies have already been spent for a surveyor make it difficult for the board? That's a question for Greg. So the survey, I'll just highlight, the survey basically entails engineering, so a design on paper, plans, and then those plans and specs get sent to TDEC for approval. So that money for the engineering portion and the submittal to TDEC for review has been approved, and that's where we are right now.
And typically, we look at, when we approve those studies, that we're going to follow through on the project. That's typically what we do, unless there's some problem with the survey, or so it comes back that it's an impossible situation or something like that. But typically, when we approve the surveys, our plan is to go ahead and install the sewer.
Right. Yeah, I think the purpose of this question was, since money has already been spent, does it make it that much more difficult for you to refuse approval of the project? And I'm taking that as a no. That doesn't have any impact on your decision.
No, because what we're looking at is the survey to tell us whether or not we can do it.
Right.
But typically, we have a pretty good feeling when we approve those surveys that it's going to come back, that it's going to be okay.
All right. And follow up on that, is the survey showing anything that makes it not quite so practical to do this? Or has the survey been evaluated?
I have gotten no feedback from the engineer as to date.
I got you.
So we don't know. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Greg, one thing that would be helpful, I think, is for us to put together the outline of exactly how this process works so that it's available for folks to see in the future. And that should include what steps we take along with the letters that are sent and when the letters are sent, so that it's very clear not only to the remainder of this process, but is out there for future projects, so that people are aware of what steps are taken and when.
That would be much appreciated. That would be nice.
Actually, part of, when we changed the policy, we did do that. We just didn't publish it. So we'll publish it.
Okay. Is it appropriate at this time to ask what our next step is? Do we set up some meetings, or a meeting at least, to further this discussion? Or what is the plan?
Well, I think the next step is the board will talk about this, and when we go into executive session, and we'll see where we are at the end of it.
Okay. Is it likely there'll be a decision today on approving this, or no?
Well, what we've already taken action on is the approval of the study, and we don't take any other action until we get the results of that back.
Could we ask the board to come down to Tawny Oak Loop and see what we're doing and give you a tour? We'd sure like to show you exactly what we're talking about here when we were saying just run it up to here, Fox 10, or how it's.
We have the plot mats that we're able to.
Yeah, we have all the maps
look
and
at that.
everything.
Well, I realize you have the map, and I've got the map right here on this cell phone. But that's not anywhere near seeing what those trees are doing, what the road's doing, how the people are reacting to living there. And that's what we'd kind of like to share with you, is why we're there.
Well, I think that's a lot of the purpose of this dialogue, right?
Well, this is too, but when you get down there and you stay on 2 feet on the ground right there and say, we're going to run sewer And we need it what? I think we could tell you a lot just by showing you.
Okay.
We'd
All right.
sure like to do that at some time.
All right.
Board that we will all be kept up to date individually by letter on what's going on with this.
Yeah, we'll let you know what we decide. That's fair.
We will provide for you a document that shows the process that takes place from the decision point to consider the first letter, which should have come prior to the action that the board would take on the engineering study. And then there is a letter that is to come to all the affected lots as we go through each separate step of the process. And so you will, we'll get you that together, and then you will get all of those communications as we go through the process.
Okay. And will that be before the final determination is
Yeah.
made to approve or
Letters
not
go
approve?
out on a regular, after board action, so you'll be getting other letters before the final decision.
Okay.
Before anything's installed.
Okay. And if at that point we want to get together and have more discussion, we'll still have that option?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's okay.
This is a public meeting. You're
Great.
welcome to come anytime.
Okay.
Okay?
I think so. I hope so.
All right? Anything else?
Everybody
All right.
done?
Couple other things that we need to do. One of the things that we have done is we're starting to keep track of the questions that were asked from members. And so I want to make sure that we respond to those that were asked at the last workshop, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow at the board meeting for those questions. So the first one was the changes in the next year's budget process. Bruce?
I got lots of it. The first question was, we received was talking about discussion of changes for next year's budget process, which is this. And I can say that what we did last year, we received a report, when we asked for a report, a review of our processes. And an outfit called Club Benchmarking is an industry group that provides information on best practices. And among those things was a body of work to take a look at what we do internally for our processes. We began that process last year, and working through those improvements in communication and process, we're doing more of those implementation this year. So things that are benchmarked against best practices in other communities and clubs, we are implementing. We started that last year, and now we're continuing that process. And that includes communication and processes and milestones and things that we were doing, but we could improve on our process and more rigorous processes. It's just doing better of what we were doing and getting this in place. And make sure that we are
staying current with best practices in the industry. And they you know, they started, we're looking at being in, you know, comparing data with over 1,000 clubs that do the same sort of thing. So it was to give us a better idea of how we could improve our internal processes. Now, we've never been gigged on our audits. That's fine. But our processes, for us, we wanted to do better. That's part of what we're trying to accomplish. There was a question on the Performance Center, bocce courts, and EMS buildings. The question that we received was, are these financed or funded? The very short answer is they're funded, all three of them. Period, full stop. No going out for anything on those. The second part of that question, and this is a bit of a commentary, because the question was, why am I paying for these projects and not future members? I had to stop on that one because that was, for me, a little breathtaking. I moved here because these things were in place. Most of us, if not all of us, moved here because of a great deal of work and investment on the people that came before me did that investment. It's an investment. It's in short term, it's better for me if I and when choose to sell my property. It's also short-term investment in that everything we do on our amenities and the infrastructure draws more people here. So it keeps my fees manageable, and it keeps it a place where I want to live. And frankly, it makes good sense as a citizen in this community to pay it forward for the people that come beyond me. But it just makes common sense to me. So that was the ones from last month. There was one that I neglected that I got a few on, and this goes back to yes, end of December, first part of January. There was a lot of communication on the boat slip fees. And I thought that was really interesting because we all experienced a jump in that. Well, so I went and looked at surrounding areas of what people are paying for uncovered boat slips. And the cheapest one at Tellico runs $185 a month. That's $2,200 a year, period, full stop. The other places that I checked on were, you know, Percy Priest, Watts Bar, other places around, Nashville Shores, Chickamauga. Now, these are all places that have multiple marinas and places to store or have a slip. A small one at Chickamauga runs $5.40 per foot per month on yours. So a 22-foot pontoon is going to run you $1,500, $1,425 a month. If you want one that's covered, then it really goes up. That's about $1,700 a month. Norris Lake. Now, all of these places have other marinas and places to dock your boat if you want to do that. In fact, we have neighbors that do some of those. Norris was, it's $185 a month, and that's average around a couple, three of the marinas that I checked on. That's at Norris. Percy Priest, that gets a little pricey. For an uncovered slip, it's $3,000 to $10,000 per year. I can't even imagine trying to put my pontoon boat on something like that, but there you have 1,500 to 7,500 at Watts Bar. A friend of mine moved his boat back from Watts Bar because he wanted to run it fast and big, and he did it for a year. He was dissuaded from going to the second year because it got too pricey. We have the cheapest available, and the wait list is still there. At some point when I get tired of paying my fees, I'll either pull my boat and store it someplace else, or I'll give it up because the grandkids are not going to be coming that much longer over the years. There is a waiting list for all of that. So we're not even competitive. We're still the best in the land. So those are the couple that I had there.
And a couple others that I took on. I will talk with Russ when he gets back. He's on vacation now down in Antarctica. So when he comes back out of the freeze, I'll talk to him about operational reporting. That was a question that we had. So we'll be doing some more on that. And then, Bruce, did you have any update at all on the situation out at Lake Catherine?
Meadowview. No,
Meadowview, yeah.
Like I explained it briefly this morning that I'm still waiting on the vendor to recover from shoulder surgery. As soon as Drew is well enough, he's going to schedule the truck to come down to that motor control chemical over to London Court. I have not heard from Sue. Last month or before, I gave Sue my cell phone number. She called me one time, and I missed the call. I called her right back, and she said not to worry, that her neighbors had just walked by and said they didn't smell anything. So other than that one incident, I have not heard from Sue at all.
So that's that update. And then the final one I had was, well, there were two. One was a question that was asked about whether or not we had heard anything about a court order saying Wyndham had to pay 50% of any expansion of the sewer plant. I asked that of our attorneys, and the answer was no, they were unaware of anything like that. So from that perspective, no one other than the person asking the question or making the statement, no one's aware of any kind of court order that makes that a issue for Wyndham. And then, Tom, this one's specific to you, is you asked about the status of your document request. I think you got a letter talking about that, didn't you?
No, but.
No? I saw one.
Oh, a document request.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes, I did. Yes,
Okay.
I don't know if you looked at the numbers I would provide, but I will take it up with Russ when he gets back, because I follow those on right now today.
Okay. All right. And those were the questions from the workshop from last month. We'll have some additional ones for the board meeting that were asked. All right. I think that's everything on the agenda. Is there anything else that anybody wants to say? What's that? Nobody's left. They've all taken off. All right. In that case, then, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and those of you that stayed, thank you for staying. Yes, Bruce, you stayed. Yeah.